We discussed yesterday how Yisro had heard all that Hashem had done to Moshe and on behalf of the Jewish people. So firstly, over here in this particular point, L'Moshe Yisrael, Shokol Moshe Keneged Kol Yisrael. The way the Torah articulates it, he heard all that Hashem had done on behalf of Moshe and for Yisrael. I mean, Moshe is part of the Jewish people. It seems to be for Moshe and the Jewish people. So from here we see the way the Torah is presenting it. He did it on behalf of Moshe, independent of Klal Yisrael, and then the Jewish people. Now, let's understand. Is this the way Yisro understood it, or this is the way the Torah is presenting it? I mean, how does Yisro know that Moshe is the equivalent of Klal Yisrael? Right? How does Yisro know this? He knows he's a great Jew. He knows he was the Redeemer. Because initially when he left Midian to go back to Egypt, he had asked permission from his father-in-law, because he told him, God had told him he has to go back. But how does Yisro know that Moshe is Shokol Keneged Yisrael, that he's the equivalent of Jewish people? The way I understand it, he definitely doesn't know that. But the way the Torah presents it, he heard all that Hashem had done for Moshe and Klal Yisrael. Moshe was part of the group. But since the way the Torah articulates and presents it on behalf of Moshe and Yisrael, that indicates that Moshe is the equivalent of the Jewish people. You understand the point I'm making? It's a Yisro heard all, the Kohen leader heard that what Hashem had done on behalf of Moshe and Klal Yisrael. So from here we see Moshe is the equivalent of the Jewish people. I mean, how does Yisro make this evaluation? That Moshe is the equivalent of the Jewish people? Maybe he's not.
How do we get to that? Can't we just say that Yisro connected to Moshe because that was his connection to Israel?
Let me just point out this. You'll ask the questions after. I just want to get this recorded. Okay? So over here, I think what I'm saying, that was the simple understanding. I will get to this in a minute. We'd said that until the Mun, the Jews had said that why did Moshe take them out of Egypt? He had taken them out, but they were unworthy. And therefore they continuously complained, you put us in this situation. You put us in this situation when they were between the sea and the Egyptian armies, when after the sea closed, they come to the Morah, the bitter oasis. We're going to die in the desert. The food had run out. We're going to die of starvation. They were continuously blaming Moshe. So we asked, Moshe Avdo. It's clear. I mean, Hashem took them out, so we had explained that based on the principle of Tzaddik goes HaKadosh Baruch Hu Mekayim, that's what they understood. Because Moshe had decreed, and God fulfills the decree of the tzaddik. And that's based on the worthiness of the tzaddik. So it was saying to Moshe, your merit is not carrying through. Therefore, our predicament is due to you, because you decided you wanted us to go out. But according to what the Torah is saying now, the Torah is telling us that when he heard all that happened on behalf of Moshe Klal Yisrael, as we'll see in a moment, what did he hear? Rashi says, you read the Samon, the bear of Amalek. The Mon had come, the bear of Amalek. Very interesting. What did he do? We're not talking about the miracles of Egypt, the plagues. We're not talking about Desamakos. He says he heard all that Hashem had done on behalf. Now, when he split the sea, why did he split the sea? He split the sea to destroy the Egyptians. That's not on behalf of Klal Yisrael, correct? As the Rambam says in Hilchos Yisodei Torah, all the miracles Moshe performed was not the proof of Moshe was. It was not the proof of Moshe was. There were certain necessities, and he says the Egyptians had to be destroyed. Therefore, the sea had to be split. So the Egyptians should go in the sea, and the sea should close upon them. All that Hashem had done on behalf of Moshe and Klal Yisrael is unrelated to the splitting of the sea, unrelated to the plagues. What did he do on behalf of them? You read the Saman, that's providing man for them. The bear shall Miriam and Amalek. That's what he did. We were attacked. He did that on behalf of us, that we were able to destroy them. As it says, as Moshe's hands were raised, the Klal Yisrael were victorious. That he did on our behalf. Okay. 1 second. The Gemara tells us in Tainus that the man that fell in the desert was in the schus of Moshe. The Anei HaKavod, the clouds of glory, were in the merit of Aaron. The bear, the wellspring, was in the merit of Miriam. What happened when Aaron passed away? The clouds dispersed, and we were attacked by the Melech Arod, the king of Canaan, because he believed we were no longer under the protection of Hashem. We went to war, the clouds were restored. The Gemara says, in whose merit were they restored? In the merit of Moshe. When Miriam passed away first, the wellspring stopped. Ceased to be. Then it was restored. In whose merit was it restored? In the merit of Moshe. So meaning initially, each one of these gifts that were given to us in the desert was Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam. When they ceased to be, they were restored in the merit of Moshe. So ultimately, all three of these gifts were in the merit of Moshe Rabbeinu. That we had the man, the Anei HaKavod, and the bear. That's Gemara Tainus. So over here he says, he had heard that all that Hashem had provided on behalf of the Klal Yisrael. But what is that? You read this Haman, so definitely that was in the schus of Moshe Rabbeinu. But also, in his schus, the Klal Yisrael were beneficiaries of that. It came because of Moshe, but who are the beneficiaries? One person could survive a desert, but to provide enough sustenance, food for a whole nation, that's the man. Bear. The bear is what? That's the water. These two are the essentials. The bear was in the schus of Moshe because ultimately, even though it wasn't, right? That was in the schus of Miriam. But since Moshe Rabbeinu ultimately had the worthiness that it should be restored, so he had relevance to that also. He had relevance to the bear as Klaus had the relevance to the bear. Amalek, the war with Amalek. The first Rashi, Vayishma Yisro, Rashi, it's famous Gemara, Mashmo Shemobo, what touched him, which drew him into the desert to abandon his glory and to become part of the Jewish people? Kriyas Yamsuf u'Milchemes Amalek, the splitting of the sea, and Milchemes Amalek, and the war with Amalek. Firstly, what was so impressive with Milchemes Amalek? We spoke about a no-man band came and they attacked us. Why is that so impressive? And these are two separate opinions. Rashi brings them as one opinion. He heard two things happened. Kriyas Yamsuf, Milchemes Amalek. Kriyas Yamsuf, we understand. 250 miracles take place, and in the Oz Yoshers it says the whole world trembled. When they heard what had happened, that's something which would draw a person to give up everything. It brings a certain level of clarity. What's so impressive with Milchemes Amalek? So there's a beautiful word from the Ksav Sofer. The Ksav Sofer, who's the son of the Chassam Sofer, writes that Yisro himself we had mentioned, had worshipped all the deities of the world, and through his own initiative came to the level of understanding that the only true God is the God of the Jews. He is the omnipotent, supreme being. Everything else is a manifestation of God's willing, those powers. That was through his own initiative. Okay? Therefore, he felt it wasn't necessary for him to have the support system to be part of the Jewish people. It wasn't necessary. Now, what happened at Kriyas Yamsuf? The Jews saw God's presence. They saw his majesty. And despite they saw his majesty, what happened after Morah and after the Mun? The Jews complained for water. So what did Moshe say to the Klal Yisrael? Lomos nasus Hashem. Now that you know God took you out, why are you testing God? And because they said, Ayeshel kimba kerbeinu mayin, is God in our midst or not? What happened? Vayov Amalek. So Yisro was like taken aback after coming to a level of clarity, as it says, Vayimid b'Hashem Moshe Avdo. It was that level of presence of God. You were able to say, is God in our midst or not? So what guarantees are there? You could be on the top of the mountain and you could have such a level of clarity, and the moment you have a conflict of interest, it's like it never happened. Because how do you talk out of turn in such a manner? Is God in our midst or not? So when Yisro heard that after Kriyas Yamsuf there could be a Milchemes Amalek, there's a need, we were vulnerable to Amalek, he said, if that's the case, whatever level of clarity I may have, there are no guarantees. And because there were no guarantees, he understood. Therefore, he says, I definitely need the support system, and therefore he left Midyan to become part of the Jewish people. This is the Ksav Sofer. Otherwise, what's so impressive about Milchemes Amalek?